Okay, it is 10 o'clock on Christmas Eve, and I just finished watching Hawkeye episode 1 on the Disneys. Every now and then I get bouts of insomnia, and I think we're gonna try something different tonight. I think we're gonna try and watch this entire show, because I don't think I'm getting any sleep tonight anyway. And there's only 6 episodes. This is an experiment.
Oh, he's technically Mexican and three-fourths American, but for 3 generations he's got that nationality. Great-great-grandpa headed south, whose kids had kids then turned around. It's not what the show's about, but it's why he's Mexican technically. It helps that he was raised in New Mexico, lived in Guadalajara for 2 years, speaks fluent Spanish with a bachelor's degree in language and examine taquito.
My thoughts on episode 1. The opening is really good. It was cool to see the attack on New York from the perspective of an innocent bystander, Kate Bishop's character as a little girl. I thought that was actually a really good scene, really well done. My immediate suspicion, though, is that her mom killed her dad during the attack because there was a really long time between explosions happening and the mom being concerned about her daughter. And it didn't seem like there was a little bit of damage to the house. But, like, if there was an explosion right next to my house, I would go running for my kids immediately. And it feels like there was some fishiness going on. I don't know. Maybe I'll be correct. Maybe I won't. The show so far is not terrible. The Rogers the musical was actually a really good scene. She's showing Clint's kind of PTSD and having a nice familiar moment with his kids. The musical itself was pretty terrible, and I guess that's the joke, right? It was fun to see Hawkeye just in this awkward position of I just don't want to be here, and also this is weird. I thought so. I am unfamiliar with Hawkeye comics. I never read any of those ones, so I initially thought that this was going to be a father-daughter romp, because they had kind of set up Clint's daughter as following in his footsteps. There were a bunch of shots of her learning archery and stuff. But I do realize that Kate Bishop is a comic book character, and I guess it would make sense to have someone who's not his family be like his sidekick for the show, because he's not going to let his daughter be in the line of fire, right? So I understand that. It feels a little strange, though, that the entire title sequence is Kate Bishop and not Hawkeye. It's cool that, like, oh, this is clearly someone she's idolized. But last time I checked, the show was called Hawkeye, not Kate Bishop. So not a bad title sequence. It kind of tells her story of, oh, I just saw this idol and wanted to be like it, but a bit of a strange choice. So we're gonna go into episode 2. I had some more thoughts. Haley's character kind of just stumbles into the plot, and she doesn't know really why she's there. Some of her actions don't seem to make a lot of sense. The fact that the clock tower falls apart from someone ringing the bell doesn't make any sense and is silly. And then Kate goes home and for some reason is really nasty to her mother. She has like a horrible attitude problem. And her mom is being really cool about the whole destroying a building situation. So, I don't get that, but that's me. I'm a dad, and I tend to be siding more and more with the Disney's parents' characters in Disney movies these days. Like, Poseidon did nothing wrong in The Little Mermaid. Ariel's just a dumb teenager. So I kind of get that vibe here. Like, why is she being so mean to her mom, who is being super understanding after you just destroyed a building? And that is even despite my suspicions of this character in the first place. I mean, and the first time you see her outside of the intro, she's wearing this clearly like super villain red dress. Like, her mom has got to be the bad guy, right? They're trying to make it look like it's this other guy who gets stabbed at the end of the episode, who was obviously stabbed uh, by her stepfather to be with the retractable Ronin sword. The fact that she breaks into this guy's house just because she saw her mom like talking angrily to him, I just like, some of the choices don't make sense. We'll see where this goes. Also, why does the Ronin suit fit her? She's a lot smaller than Clint, who is a man, and Haley Steinfeld is a much smaller woman. And also, all of the thugs are like calling her dude when you can clearly see her figure underneath the outfit. Like, you see her, it's obvious there's a woman underneath the costume, but we're all calling her dude. Those are my thoughts. On to episode 2, and we'll see you at 11 o'clock. Okay, just finished episode 2. The positives. Kate and Clint have really good chemistry together. It's fun seeing Clint just be grumpy and an old man. The dialogue is good between them. However, this episode is definitely like a filler episode, which, when you have a limited series that's only 6 episodes long, why are there still filler episodes? Nothing really happens at all in episode 2 until the very, very end. We spent most of the episode LARPing for some reason. I don't think it added a whole lot. Also, the line that the fireman says to Clint is really dumb. He's a fireman, and he says, "Let me pretend to kill you in this live-action roleplay, because this is the only time I could feel like a real hero." It's pretty insulting to firemen, if you ask me. You know, people who literally put their lives on the line for strangers. Some weird choices. Again, Kate is just super hostile to her mom and stepfather to be. And they haven't given her like any reason to be suspicious. Like, well, she's especially hostile towards her stepfather to be. And he hasn't done, I mean, he was in a black market auction. But like, Kate's in a rich, she's a rich family. Like, rich people do that. That's nothing suspicious, right? But she's super suspicious of her father-in-law for no apparent reason, and then her suspicions are confirmed because he had one of his uncle's like branded candies that she saw in his apartment when he was dead, which doesn't really confirm a lot. Like, his name was Armand the Third, and those are his candies. Those are his candies. They're named after him. Why wouldn't his nephew have his uncle's candies? That doesn't mean that he was at his house when he died. I don't know. The stuff with the tracksuit gang was funny, and that's all I have to say about episode 2. Also, quick note before I start episode 2. Kate Bishop's character is like massively in over her head. I get that she's like an Olympic gymnast and is good at lots of things, but she just like jumps into this criminal underworld and is unfazed by people shooting guns at her. It would have been really funny if she just gets shot immediately, because that's definitely what would have actually happened in that situation. There was like 10 armed guys shooting at her, and she's just ready to do this. Doesn't have any superpowers. Bye. All right, episode Trace just finished. It's midnight, Christmas Eve. Or technically, it's Chris. Merry Christmas, everybody. That's why we're watching a Christmas show of the Hawkeye, episode 3. Much better than episode 2, which was all filler. This was mostly action, and it was pretty good. Like the fight scene in the warehouse with the Russians was fun. I liked the interrogation. Oh, the episode opens with backstory on the crime boss girl lady who's deaf. Yeah, it was pretty good stuff on the villain. I like it when we humanize villains and make them more sympathetic. This though kind of felt like a little too much, like trying to say like maybe she's a good person, and she's a crime boss, and that's not good. But interesting stuff. I think her character's interesting. I did not like the line that she says to Clint though. You rely too much on technology because you use a hearing aid. I don't know a lot of deaf people, but I don't think that they would resent anyone. I don't want to like speak for their community as a whole, but it's hard to imagine that someone who is deaf would look down on someone who's hard of hearing for using the resources modern technology has made available to us. That seemed like super judgy, which is fine because she's the villain, but I don't. It just felt really preachy. Didn't like that line. But the action was fun. The chase sequence got a little silly, but it was fun to, hey, let's have a bunch of silly magic arrows. And for the most part, it was fun, except for the one part where Hawkeye says, hey, this is a plan. Take these 2 acid arrows and shoot down the stoplights. I don't really understand what purpose that served. They shot down the stoplights and then they went through the intersection. Was he having her shoot down the stoplights so that there wouldn't be a red light, so they could go through? I didn't get that part. The rest of it was fine. Once again, I think the strongest aspect of the show is the chemistry between Hawkeye and Kate Bishop. They're very entertaining when they are talking to each other, and how he is the wizened old geezer who just doesn't have time or energy for her crap, and she is the young, sparky, a little bit annoying, but also wanting to impress, this her mentor figure. So it's a good dynamic. It's fun when they play off of it. I'm assuming that the uncle, who's the leader of the crime syndicate, who's the uncle to the deaf lady, it's got to be Kingpin, right? If they're introducing Daredevil into the Spider-Man movie, this is going to be Kingpin, which would be cool if we get some Vincent D'Onofrio, and because he was probably the best Marvel villain, which is unfortunate because he was just in the TV shows, and if they could utilize him more, that would be pretty cool. It's got to be Kingpin because I saw his big old chonkin arms in that one scene. By far the best part of episode 3 is the phone call that Clint has with his son after his hearing aid has been smashed and he can't hear what his son's saying, and Kate is writing on the notepad, trying to help him out. That scene was absolutely brilliant and very emotional and very, very well done. That was probably the highlight of the entire show. Let's jump right into episode 4, because we see that her stepfather to be is he has the Ronin sword. Let's see what happens next. And one thing, why doesn't Clint have any texts between him and his wife? He texts his wife in this episode, and it's a clean slate. There's no history. Does he? Is this the first time he's texted his wife? All right, we just finished Hawkeye episode 4. It was okay. Episode 4 is fine. There is a lot of fun stuff between Kate and Hawkeye. Getting to know each other, having a Christmas party. The before that though, the episode starts with Hawkeye getting confronted by Kate's mom and stepfather to be. They come up with excuses as to why they were there, and obviously no one believes it. This part got a little muddled. I wasn't 100% sure where the direction was trying to go, or what they were trying to do with that. But it was fine. I mean, Kate's mom is definitely sus. I've said from the beginning she's probably the bad guy of the whole series. The Hawkeye talking to the crime boss's underling was a pretty good scene. This episode wasn't quite as good as episode 3, but it was fine. And then we get a big fight between deaf girl Maya, is that her name? Between the deaf crime boss and Kate and Clint and Black Widow's sister, who's here. It's kind of unclear when this movie is, or when this show is taking place. Is this the most up to date MCU property? It's kind of hard to tell the timeline right now. I mean, it's definitely obviously after the events of Endgame, but in regard to all of the other properties, I'm not 100% sure when this is taking place. Honestly, not a whole lot to say about this episode. I do like... I forgot to mention earlier that the Kate Bishop-centric title sequence was just for episode 1, and the news title sequence that they're using, which they're actually just using for the credits instead of for the opening, has both of them, and I like that better. And I think the original title sequence was fine for episode 1 because it was a good way to kind of introduce her character progression. I thought that was fine, so I don't really have a problem with that anymore. This whole Rolex MacGuffin thing is a little odd. I have no idea who they could be alluding to as to what character's identity would be tied to the watch. I don't know. If it was something that personal, why it was just sitting in the Avengers compound, we'll see. Episode 5, here we come. Just 2 more. I like that this episode addresses one of the problems that I had with the previous episode by having Clint make fun of Kate for jumping to conclusions from seeing a butterscotch candy, and it kind of shines light on how ridiculous she was acting. That was a fun moment. Episode 5 of Hawkeye. It's fine. It starts off pretty interestingly, I guess, with Yelena from the Hawkeye's Black Widow's sister, experiencing the Thanos blip snap from her perspective. Was kind of neat to just blink and fade away and then come back and have stuff change around you. It was a little weird that so much stuff changed in the same house with just a 5-year difference. I guess, do rich people do that? Just remodel their entire houses every 5 years? I don't know. I mean, it was a cool visual, but it didn't make a whole lot of sense. But it was cool to see her character do that. Her character experience that. The show's fine. This episode felt a little dragged out again, though. Of course, we have to experience the third act. The third act falling out between our main characters so that they can reunite for the finale. It's a little cliche. But the dialogue between Kate and Yelena, it was kind of fun. It was an entertaining scene. It just felt like the majority of this episode was filler again and with only having 6 episodes for the entire season. It kind of feels like this was supposed to be a movie originally, and because of like COVID stuff, they decided to chop it up and elongate it for a TV show. I don't know. This feels like enough content for a movie and not enough content for a season of TV show. And it's only 6 episodes. But it's fine. Yes, and Kingpin is confirmed. I was totally right. It was obviously the mother was the bad guy this whole time, working with the Kingpin, and she's the one who hired the Black Widow's sister to kill Clint. I honestly don't know what they're trying to go for with the finale. Still don't know who owns the watch or why anyone would want it, but we will have to see. I mean, unless they're doing Daredevil here too, it would be Daredevil's watch, but he's retired. That can't be it. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. They're keeping that mystery close to the chest. But it will be fun to see Vincent D'Onofrio, arguably the best Marvel villain they've ever had, who wasn't even in the movies at all. We spent a lot of time on LARPing. LARPing characters are interesting. They feel a little unnecessary. They feel like ancillary characters who aren't super important to the plot at all, but it's fine. I have a note. The note that I wrote down on my phone is ... and she wants to kill you. Yes, that's when Kate is talking to Clint and says, "Oh yeah, by the way, there's something you should know. That masked woman is Black Widow's sister." And he says, "Okay." And she never says, "Oh, and by the way, she wants to kill you." And she also calls Clint before this meeting like 100 times and leaves a bunch of messages, and they're all about her life. And not once does she mention, "Hey, that assassin we both encountered, her sole purpose is to kill you." That's important information you should have shared a lot sooner. And yet, it wasn't shared at all, or at least not on screen. But here we go, episode 6. One more hour into the eves of Christmas Eve night, early morning. And is it Christmas or no? So this is Christmas with a question mark. Episode 6. We're gonna let's dive right in. All right, it is 2 a.m. and we just finished episode 6 of Hawkeye. Did the whole thing in one sitting, and these are my thoughts. That finale was a mess. Not great at all. None of it really made any sense. All of the characters were just there, and their motivations and plans were very unclear. What was Hawkeye and Kate's plan? They got all their LARP friends to dress up as waitstaff, but what was their plan? What were they doing? Were they just there to confront Kate's mom? I don't know. They never at any point explain what their plan is or what their goal is, other than, also, how do they know that Kingpin wants to kill her? It's just a guess. They have footage of Kate's mom meeting with Kingpin. They don't have footage of him talking with the guy saying he wants to kill her. He never says he wants to kill her. Kingpin never says what his plan is either. And it's never really what did he want? I don't know what a single character in the finale wanted to happen. I don't know what their desired results were. There was a bunch of times where the guy on their radio was talking to Kingpin. He said, "Oh, they're coming straight to you," or so like the plan was to just like get Kate's mom in a car. I don't know. It was very messy. There were some good parts. Kate and Yolana fighting in the building was a really good scene, and then the whole finale just turns very cartoonish with them, shooting arrows at people, and these arrows that they just made in an apartment building they're staying at Kate's aunt's apartment, and yet they have like a workshop to make all these arrows in. Doesn't make there's a lot of holes in the finale. And then so this episode had a lot of similar problems that episode 3 have, which was probably the strongest episode, but I did say that it got up to a point where it was too cartoony, and I was willing to forgive it in episode 3 because it wasn't too bad. But episode 6, when they're on the ice, well, first off, to get there, she just shoots down the tree and then it falls over. I don't see how that was safer than him just climbing down from the tree. People climb trees. They also climb down them. Or he could have slid down. But once they get to the ice, the whole fight soon just turns very, very silly. There are like thousands of goons that just keep pouring in, and not a single one just shoots him dead. I guess he used his like electromagnetic arrow to glue their guns to the electric poles, which was also silly. The biggest problem with how with the silliness of the finale is that it's juxtaposed with Kingpin. The Kingpin from the Daredevil TV show, like the greatest villain that Marvel's ever created. The guy that smashed a guy's head in with a car door, like the scariest man alive, who just like beats people to death with his fists. He feels really out of place in this. The rest of the people are living in cartoon land where they can, jump off buildings and repel with stuff, which is fine, but it doesn't work with Kingpin as the villain, who should have just straight up killed Kate Bishop. I wasn't scared of him in this. He felt out of place in with cartoon physics, and he was beat pretty easily. And like, if it's the same Kingpin from Daredevil, he would have just like snapped Kate's neck. Also, what was his plan? What did he want? I don't know. And I guess Maya shows up and she kills her friend guy. So they're, I called it from the beginning. They're making her character this sympathetic, she was a villain, but now she's turned good. And it would have worked. It could have worked if they hadn't set her up as the leader of this crime syndicate. She's not just this innocent goon who got caught up in a gang because her father was involved and she kind of just inherited, this gang affiliation, but she's really just good at heart, but she just can't cut these family ties. No, she's literally the one in charge. She's not a good person, but the show's pretending that she's a good person. And then, of course, the camera pans away while she shoots Kingpin. Of course, she doesn't kill Kingpin. I don't know. The finale was a bit of a letdown, and this whole thing felt like it should have been just a movie and not a TV show, and it was only 6 episodes. It wasn't terrible. It had a very disappointing finale, but that is the case with most Marvel properties. Their finales are less than stellar. Also, it's a travesty that we didn't get a fight between Kingpin and Hawkeye. They don't even meet in the show. He fights with Yolanda the whole time and talks about love, and Kingpin just gets to fight Kate and get hit by a car because Kate's mom drove a car into him. Oh yeah, I forgot about the watch. The watch is Hawkeye's wife's watch, and for some reason it was at the Avengers compound. I honestly just realized this. Are they trying to say that she was a SHIELD agent and that's how she met Clint? I honestly don't know. I'd have to go back and watch it again, and I don't want to do that. That's got to be what it was. Because it had SHIELD on the back, so she was a secret agent, and that's how they met and then fell in love. Doesn't explain why her watch was just at the Avengers compound instead of at her house. Also doesn't explain why everyone wanted it. Why was everyone trying to buy the watch? I don't understand. Like that was like the crux of the whole show. The gang broke in specifically looking for that watch. They had intel on why would that matter? Because they were looking for Ronin, but they didn't know that Hawkeye was tied to Ronin. Why would they be looking for this girl's watch? Just to get Also, why would having the watch also reveal the identity of Clint and all his family? Is that encoded in the watch? I don't understand. I'm legitimately confused, and it's 3:00 in the morning now. What was the point of the show? What were everyone's goals? What did they want to accomplish? What did the bad guys want? These are my Christmas morning thoughts on No Sleep. Those are pretty much all my thoughts. I think even with my criticisms, it's probably the best Disney Plus show so far. We can get into the others, WandaVision and Falcon and Loki, because Loki's probably better than this one. It's probably number 2, but I'm not impressed with the Disney Plus TV shows so far. This one was mediocre. Yeah, so far all of the Disney Plus TV shows have started off with a lot of potential, and then by the time you get to the finale, they've just lost all momentum and are just riddled with problems. So, not a huge fan. And that's it. It's 2:00 in the morning. I watched Hawkeye in one sitting, and it's Christmas. Merry Christmas. Hope you had a great Christmas. This video's probably going up on Monday, but I did it. I watched all Hawkeye for you guys. I did this for you. Sure, it wasn't for me. Bye.